Hi, everybody. I'm Nick Powles, publisher of 1851franchise.com. Thank you for joining us for yet another discussion with Sylvan Learning's awesome franchise owners, Courtney and Deena. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's start with what your stories are. Courtney, we'll start with you, and then Deena will go to you second. But when I say what's your story, what's your Sylvan story, maybe tell a little bit on both of those and how you even got here to today.
Well, many, many moons ago, I went to college and I decided to be a teacher. My mom was a teacher. So that's what I started out with is I was a first grade, kindergarten, fourth grade teacher, even up into sixth grade, taught for several years. Then I decided I was going to have a baby, start a family, took a year off and thought, you know what, I'll just work part-time. So I started out as a Sylvan teacher, and then just over the years, it evolved. And at one point, the center that I was working at, the franchisee said, you know what, I'm going to retire. He was the first and only owner. And so I started with Sylvan back in 2006 and have been with them ever since.
That's awesome. And Deena, what's your story?
I also went to college to become a teacher, and I taught 1 year and then was presented with an opportunity at Sylvan to become a director of education. So I worked for 10 years with that owner going through to become a district manager. So I worked all the roles at that point. She sold the company, and I went into the classroom with my kids. So I was teaching middle school. My husband teaches high school. And so one of the directors that the previous owner had, who was currently working and owned the center, talked to me a couple of years ago and said that she was interested in selling as well. And so that was how I landed back in the exact same center in the office where I was working with them almost 20 years ago.
That's awesome. So let's start with you, Deena. When you're going to college to be a teacher, obviously you've built up some sort of passion for children and education. At any point during discovery or your own personal discovery, are you thinking about being a business owner? And then at what point, like does that turn into a different type of reality?
I would say yes, that I always had that passion a little bit, but just that far back, probably just didn't have the faith in myself at that time. But definitely, that was something that even though I had started out in college and education, the passion was there, but I wanted to take it somewhere different. And so when I learned about Sylvan, that was an incredible experience, because then when I went back into the classroom, it was very difficult for a while because I wanted to group all the kids by ability, and I wanted to, sort them with strengths and weaknesses. And when you've got 24 kids in your classroom, that's not really possible. And so I found that kind of spoiled me a little bit, because at Sylvan, we really can get a handle on what the kids are doing.
And Courtney, what about you when you're going through this journey of going from teacher to business owner? What does that progression look like for you? I mean, obviously you're taking over a center in your situation, so you had time to let it materialize. But does the thought that I'm now an entrepreneur offset the teacher side?
I think if you'd asked me 20 years ago, I never would have thought about being an entrepreneur. I'd grown up with a family that had its own small business, so I was used to living in that. And my husband, who's also a part owner at Sylvan, he got his business degree, so he had that aspect when he came to the table. But it never occurred to me when I was in college that, oh, I'll be an entrepreneur. But it was a side that I really embraced and liked learning about that, and, doing things that I never thought I would have, certainly doing things now that I never would have done in the classroom as far as business side of things. But I use the education side to relate to the parents, to really understand what the students are doing at the table. So I like bringing both worlds together.
Courtney, I'll start with you on this one. Like, the reality is there are going to be people, human beings that are watching this, and they're sitting on the sidelines. And most likely, I mean, the audience that this is meant for are teachers that are in the middle of their careers and are butting up against the moment where they're debating whether they want to continue their career as a teacher or they want to try something different. And that tends to be the trigger moment of just whether it's politics or it's changes in the educational landscape or changes in their own lives. There's this moment that they're going to go through and they're going to think about what could franchising, business ownership, and Sylvan mean for them. As they're going on this journey, what advice would you give them if one of them is looking you in the eyes and saying like how do I get comfortable with going from employed teacher to this is my business? How would you advise them?
Well, I think it's worth the risk. I mean, for me, it was good. It worked with my family. It gave me some freedom there. I liked the fact that I was making an impact with kids in a real granular way with each family. The relationships that you can build with the students, the relationships that you can build with the parents, that you can continue to be an ongoing resource for them. You know, they might come to you in kindergarten or first grade for reading. Then you're going to, maybe later when they struggle with math and then study skills, ACT, even homework help. So I like the relationship building that you have with Sylvan, and the fact that, as a teacher, you want to do whatever you can to help that student improve. And it's the same at Sylvan. We look at each child individually, and that's where the education side of, what I was trained to do, what I went to college for, and what I spent the first part of my career doing. I liked that aspect, and that was still there. I got rid of some of the things in the education world that I didn't like, and now have that with becoming a Sylvan franchisee, because Sylvan gave me a lot of support as a new franchisee. And even now, I mean, I've been a franchisee since 2012. Just the support, you never learn it all, but the support and the evolution that Sylvan has given me as a franchisee, the new products that we have, or the support from our franchise business consultant or marketing, all those things has really helped me continue to grow as a business owner and take my business to the next step. So I think if you're an educator looking to get outside the classroom, the things that you like in the classroom, I think you'll find are also at Sylvan. And that's the support that and I like the support because as I'm not a business person, I don't have my master's in accounting, I don't have anything like that, but they give you the support and help you through those things and give you resources of, some of the things that I'm not so good at. I can, I hire an accountant to do my taxes, things like that. So I like the support that Sylvan gives, and, and I like the fact that we can still do the education side of things and make that difference.
Courtney, did you feel like you understood the depth of support that was going to be behind you when you first got into this, or is it something that you discovered along the way?
I think it's something I see, all the time. I mean, with the franchise business consultants, they're readily available to help me, if I'm having a hard time with a parent, customer service things, or, even just marketing, that's not something I've done a lot of in education. I didn't have to market in my classroom. And so those are things that they continue to support. And I like the fact that, we're, as a company, we're always evolving and getting new updates and making sure that what we have is good for students. And even the education team that it's at corporate is really good at, hey, I've got this kid that I'm really struggling with. I don't know what to do. They'll meet with me and I can make those changes. So I've that support has been there, even though I've been with Sylvan since 2012 as a franchisee. So I like that continued support.
Deena, is it scary to be a business owner?
No, I think it's exciting, but at the same time, I mean, I think I have found this last year that on one hand, I need to be patient with myself and realize that there is a learning curve. And just because I spent 10 years as a director doesn't mean that I know everything now. And of course, that was 20 years ago. So some things have changed. But I agree with everything that Courtney said, in that the help that we're given and the support that's there is amazing. I mean, I knew that they were involved when we were starting the business process. But I was, I think, more than pleasantly surprised to get the help with the marketing and the franchise business consultant. And, you know, just like Courtney said, everything that's there. If we have questions on things, there's places we can go and resources to get. So I think it's made it less scary after a year into it, you know, because, you know, you've got the support.
Deena, how have your dreams in life or career shifted since you've taken the leap into business ownership? Like what do you dream about now?
You know, maybe on a small level, I dream about being able to make a difference with these kids and with these families that are in here, being able to conference and talk to them and see the success and see how happy they are and how successful the kids are, to be out in my center, walking around, and to see that happen when I couldn't always get that in the classroom. You know, to see that my teachers are happy, that they're coming to me, telling me how much they love working in our center. I mean, those are things that no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't always get somewhere else. So my dreams are to continue to build the center, to make the most out of everything we have, and to get our name out in the community. And that's a big one, because marketing is not in my background either. But I am utilizing the resources we have to get that moving.
It's awesome. What about you, Courtney? What are your dreams now, or how has your dream and what you want to accomplish in life or career shifted as going from teacher, which I would imagine it's the dreams are all about the impact to children, which it doesn't change when you're a business owner, but it evolves. What does your dreams for your life and your career look like now?
Well, I'm like Deena, I'd like to see my center grow, because if your center is growing, that means you're impacting more students, that you're helping more families. I like working with the teachers and the professional relationships, and making an impact in the school. When you do your teacher contacts, when we reach out to student teachers and helping them see that Sylvan can be a resource for that child. What can we do to make that child better in your classroom? So I like that aspect, just making, being more involved in the community, making more of an impact there. But I'm like Deena, I think the more that you can grow the center, the more it means that you're making an impact with students in your area.
Courtney, if you're talking to this teacher that's out there, that's again sitting on the sidelines thinking about what life and career look like in say the next 12 months, how would you advise they go about doing their due diligence on whether Sylvan is the right business for them?
Well, I think the franchise development team at Sylvan is good about showing you centers. You know, ask to talk to current franchisees, look at the market in your area, understand what's going on with the competitors in your community. But don't be afraid to ask Sylvan the questions. They're going to answer them. They're going to be there to help you. You're at step one, and I remember thinking, oh, now I've done all this. I'm approved to be a franchisee. I've arrived. And yes, you have. You've worked really hard to get there, but it's just like then you're beginning the next step. And so I would encourage you to think about what you're wanting, what kind of work-life balance you're wanting. Then talk to other Sylvan franchisees. They're a great resource. There's all sorts of, you know, in rural markets to suburban markets to big city markets. So, you know, talk to other franchisees, talk to the Sylvan franchise development team. They're a great resource. Talk to them about your concerns, because I imagine they're going to be concerns that a lot of other franchisees have or are currently having.
Deena, anything you want to add from due diligence or advice that you'd have for someone that's thinking about this?
Basically, I would say there's never a dumb question. If there's something that pops up in your head that you're wondering about, you need to ask. And like Courtney said, asking other franchisees, but when one's looking into any other type of franchise, it's going to be the same thing. That's why I really appreciated corporate providing us with the tools that they did in order for us to do the due diligence. And so that's going to apply everywhere. But, my husband has a business degree. And so, he was pretty detailed. So talking to other people, franchisees or other general business owners, so that you know what to ask.
Is there anything, Deena, that in retrospect you wish you would have known then that you know now, either positive or opportunity wise?
That I didn't know that I wish I knew now. I think, okay, so I had to think for a second. Probably after the due diligence, making sure I had a handle on the franchise side of things and not just a director, because that was part of what happened with me is I am also the director at the center. And so I was wearing two hats. And so making sure that I was clear very early on, down to, changing your name over into your phone bills and electric. And that seems like that's obvious and small and not a big deal, but they add up. And then before you know it, you just have a lot of things stacking there. So, just want to be familiar and be aware and take all of the advice that we got from corporate and the help. I took a lot of notes because you get a lot of information all at once. And for me, I had to go back and look at it later. So just checking myself.
Courtney, anything that you would tell yourself that whatever you've learned in the process of being a franchise owner that you're like, either ask this question, look under this rock, or, as simple as it's going to be easier than you think it is?
Well, I opened my second center in 2015 and thought it would be, I opened that center from scratch. There wasn't a Sylvan in the territory that I took on. So I think being patient in realizing if you're opening a center brand new and you're not taking over an existing center, to be patient with yourself, focus on, find 3 to 5 things that you really want to focus on that, for a year or so and really hone in on that. Don't be afraid to get down and meet with the parents and really be involved in the center so that you can know your business from the ground up. One of the best things that I did early on was I scheduled at the time it was weekly or even at least every other week meetings with my franchise consultant. And I used to joke, I said, you're kind of like my priest. I'll confess things to you. I hope, she was a good sounding board of what was going on. She helped me through staffing issues, parent issues, student issues. I'm starting to get worried. I don't have any tests coming in the door. What can I do? Sometimes she would say, I don't know, let me give you to so-and-so over in this department. And there was never anybody that said, no, I can't help you. So I think taking advantage of those resources and working to, focusing on those things as you begin, but also giving yourself time. Because I remember in 2015 thinking, oh, this is never going to get off the ground. And I could start to see it turning a corner, and then 2020 hit and it was just like, oh no, so that it is possible. And you just have to work at it. I think that there's a lot of different resources and there's a lot of different ways to run a Sylvan. Every Sylvan, has different strengths. So I think realizing what your strength is, I'm definitely more of a middle school, elementary teacher. So those are easy for me to do. And so looking for a director that has more of a high school background has really helped me kind of diversify my student population. So I think there's definitely things I've learned along the way. Some things I found out the hard way and some things I just got lucky on. So.
All right. Courtney, do you feel like, again, knowing everything that you know now, is Sylvan a great business, career, franchise opportunity for teachers? And
Yeah,
why?
I think it works well, with that education that you can, um, make the impact on each student, because you have that classroom background that you can speak to families. You can approach it as if you're a teacher talking about how you're going to help the student directly at the table. When you're meeting with teachers in the classroom, for a student, you have that common background that you have that you can relate to. So I do think it was a good transition. There are a lot of things that I'd take care of now that I never would have had to take care of as a classroom teacher. Taxes, 941s, all that stuff, QuickBooks, those are all things that I learned, but they were not, out of reach. And, hired a good accountant to make sure I was staying on the straight and narrow. So, you learn to help delegate, and, in the classroom, you're responsible for what's going on just in your classroom. So I think Sylvan's helped me, learn to become a delegator, but by overseeing and managing a team to make sure that all the needs are being met.
Deena, same question to you. Is Sylvan the ideal business opportunity for teachers, and why?
Absolutely. I mean, after I taught 15 years in the classroom, and I know that teaching is getting more and more difficult. I didn't want to leave education entirely, but I personally knew I wasn't going to be able to stay in the classroom. So this was a perfect fit, because my husband and I are both teachers, and it gives us that satisfaction that I just couldn't always get before.
Love it. Deena, we'll end on this, and then Courtney, you'll take us home. But what's your future Sylvan story? Like, where do you see life going with Sylvan from here on
out? Being the #1 recommended name in our community. I do have a couple of local competitors, but I want to be the one recognized as our center feels compassion, and our goal is to make sure that the kids meet their goals and that the parents are happy. And so again, kind of like I said before, I want the center to grow, but I want it to be recognized, and I want to continue to build it. And with the potential that the town right next to us, we can put that center back in there as well.
Love it. And Courtney, what's your future Sylvan story?
I think, to continue to grow, obviously, I want people to think Sylvan's a place that helps my child. They're not just there to sell me something. They're not just there to pad their bank. I just would like for people to recognize that whatever we do, our goal is to make an impact on that child. I think there's a lot of different ways that Sylvan can make an impact. There's a lot of different avenues that we can use. So I want to just become more known for, they're going to help my child, period.
I think that's great. I mean, look, at the end of the day, what I love about your guys' stories is passion, empathy, compassion. Like what you set out to do in your careers are now still in action. Nothing changed. And so you've pivoted, but you were able to do something in a way that puts you back in control. You're in control of the outcomes. You're in control of what happens next. And you're still able to lean on the things that you grew up on and you were passionate about. And I think that's really cool. And for other people that are out there listening to you guys talk, it proves that it can be done. And oftentimes a prospective franchise owner, who is going to happen to be a teacher in this case, wants to look around the room and find people that have done it already, because that gives them comfort and confidence that if you guys can do it, they can do it too. And I think you guys have done a great job of telling the story on why it is comfortable to do this, and how Sylvan gives the support to back you guys up. And I'm grateful for you guys sharing your guys' stories. with our audience, and obviously to everybody watching. Thank you. So for Courtney and Deena, I'm Nick Powles. Thanks for watching another episode of our Sylvan Discussions. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.